Now here on Ross Reviews, I am a bit of a Barra fanboy. I don't hide this, I preach about it, and pretty much ever since I got on my first XR6 Turbo, I fell in love. This car right next to me is a Series 1 BF F6 Typhoon, and it's mine. Some of you guys who follow the channel, you would have seen, my video where I revealed this car, or I've done a few modifications to get this car back to driving standard. And yeah, I figured let's do the review while this car is driving reasonably well and it's reasonably stock. This has a middle muffler delete, a crappy pod filter, and a turbo wastegate. That is it. There are lots of things on the way for this car, so I figured, well, it's still reasonably stock. Let's get a review done and see what it was like from factory. There really are hardly any videos about these cars on the internet, on YouTube, so let's get out and hit that boost. Now driving my 2006 BF FPV F6 Typhoon. This car is just, it just feels so special, at least to me. It definitely is not much of a car to really look at on the inside, but the outside, it really does have a lot of character, I think. I honestly think this is one of the best looking, Falcons ever made. I do. I honestly think that. I think the BF really hit the nail on the head. It had that aggressive look. The styling, it's just all there. I really, really think that. Even with the V8s that they came out with for the GTs, they just looked so good. Now, under the bonnet, if you have been living under a rock here in Australia, this has got the absolutely legendary 4-liter, 24-valve, inline-6, turbocharged Barra. This is 270 kilowatts from factory, guys, and about 550 newton meters of torque. So it really is quite torquey, this thing. And when you start modifying these cars, that is where the legendary aspect really came from, because you guys have seen it on my channel. I have reviewed countless cars with this engine that are running, well over 600 horsepower and well over, 900 newton meters of torque. It's really, really easy to get those numbers up in this thing. And my goodness, you just lay your foot into it, get the boost starts to spin, and in this particular car, you can hear the flutter. The blow-off valve is blocked off, so that causes the flutter here with the wastegate. But man, it's yeah, there's something special about the Turbo 6 here in Australia. I don't know. I've always been kind of a JDM guy. I've always grown up loving the JDM stuff from the 90s era. And when I seen this car, I really didn't think anything of it until I drove it. And you kind of get that muscle car vibe, but then you throw in the inline-6 turbo. This is kind of like the Aussie 2JZ. And man, it's a big 4-liter inline-6, and she hauls, boy. Oh. Now, just getting into some of these corners here, this is really where the F6 kind of struggles. It's not the best around a bend going quick, look, it's a large car. This thing weighs around 1.7 ton, and you know, you can feel the weight when you tuck it around these corners, you know. And this car's suspension is pretty flogged out. You know, this thing's got just over 200,000 Ks on it, so it's being used, and you know, you can really tell that. But even from new, you know, these were never praised as great handling cars because, look, they're designed for going fast on a straight line. That is really what these cars are built and made for. You know, overtaking road trains is what you're going to do in something like this. You're not really going to be taking it through the you know, the tight B road and trying to race an Evo or something, because yeah, it's a large car and there's no getting around that aspect. Yeah, you know, it really does need an aftermarket set of springs in here, or you know, some new coilovers, because yeah, it is a little bit all over the place. You can still send it, but you really got to be aware, because yeah, you got a lot of weight here. Luckily though, from factory, we did get Brembos up front, so you know, that does really help with the stopping power here, because you need it. Now, one of the good things about having the F6 Typhoon here is fuel economy is pretty good, because you know, when you're just cruising around, this thing, you know, doesn't need its turbocharger. So, you know, for most of the time you're in the city, you know, you're not even engaging the boost. So, you know, this thing is claimed at around 12 liters per 100 Ks, which is miles better than if you were going to go and get, say, the XR8. Because I used to have the XR8 Ute, the BA, and yeah, that thing was giving me around, you know, 17 liters per 100 Ks, you know, on a good day. So this is a lot better. And even when I flog this car out, it's still showing up at around like 13.8, 14 liters. So it's a big difference. Now, the big reason why you would have wanted a BF F6 or a BF in general was the transmissions, because the transmissions all got an upgrade. So if you had a BA, you would have only been offered a 5-speed manual, and even in the XR6 Turbo, you would have got the 5-speed manual or the 4-speed auto, which, let's be honest, it wasn't great. The BF, however, upgraded to a 6-speed manual, and then you got upgraded to a 6-speed ZF gearbox, automatic here. And look, I'm not the biggest fan of auto cars. I always like the manual option, but let me tell you something. If you want to go quick, get the ZF, because my goodness, you know, it might be a little bit less engaging, but it really does bring on the speed of this car. It really does transform it. It's really great how you have a Tiptronic mode here as well, and it's actually laid out the correct way. So when you get it over to the left, you can run through the gears, so you pull it down to go up a gear, which is how you do it. That is how you run a sequential gearbox and how you want to run a Tiptronic gearbox. No brainer. So I'm so happy they did it this way. Yep. A big reason why these cars are quite rare, I feel like, is because when these came out, there really wasn't a whole lot of info on them. You know, it was kind of like V8s, 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 V8s. And then all of a sudden, Ford and FPV came out with this XR6 Turbo, the Barra. And, you know, a lot of people couldn't get that through their head. You know, it was a V8 community out here. It was a muscle car era. And, you know, when this car came out, I think, you know, a lot of people went and bought the GT because they were used to it. That's what they, you know, are comfortable with. So I think that's really why you kind of struggled to get this car, because not a lot of them were actually sold and made, unfortunately. Now, just rolling onto it and just getting a little bit of sound here. you know, it's there's not much sound in this car, unfortunately. And yeah, typical B-series problems. Window switches don't really want to work anymore. Come on, come on. Come on.
2 hours later.
There we go. Yeah, you know, the sound of this car, it really, you don't hear anything. You know, people call it like a vacuum cleaner sound or whatever you want. You know, you get a nice induction sound, and you know, if you got like a wastegate like I do, or you block off the blow-off valve, you can get some flutter and turbo noises, which is nice, but you really need to get an aftermarket exhaust for these to sound any good. But when you do get one, man, they can sound really nice. They really can. But yeah, reliability with these cars, engine-wise, is really good. You know, these engines are really quite bulletproof. They're super strong. You can run a bunch of power through them. Generally, it's kind of all the other stuff around the engine that starts to give you issues. The engine itself is pretty solid. It really is. You know, look, this is the Barra. It's based off a taxi. So, you know, all the Holden guys always call it a cab, but hey, it just means it's reliable. So it's not a bad engine. It really is reliable. It's sort of the rest of the car is questionable. It really is. You know, like the window switches are going. You know, you get slow window motors. They go. You know, in my car even, the washer jets aren't wanting to work anymore. So you get little problems like this that constantly go. You got to fix, which can be annoying, you know. And look, especially if you've got an FPV like this, you do get hit with FPV tax. So, you know, if you have any parts you kind of want to get for these cars, it can be expensive. And prices, well, back in 2006, this was around the 62,000 mark. Look, for an FPV, that was pretty standard. I believe this was actually cheaper than the GT. I think they were around the 65 mark. And, you know, look, it was still a decent amount of money back then, but it was affordable. You know, people who worked regular jobs, you know, look, they could save up and buy one of these. And that was kind of the joy of these cars, was that, you know, regular Joes could get them, they could modify them, and they'd go out to the track, they go out to the drag strip, and hey, you know, bye-bye Mercedes, you know, bye-bye BMW, all these people with the rich cars. These things were a weapon. They really were. On the used market today, look, they've started to climb up in value. They really have now. And with covert tax, especially, look, to get a half-decent one of these, you're going to be looking around 20, 25 grand. You really will be. And look, just to find one in general is really difficult. You know, I kind of regularly go and look on car sales, Gumtree. You'd be kind of lucky to find 3 or 4 in the country for sale at any one time. So you got to really hunt for what you want with these cars. All right, now 0 to 100. This thing is claimed at about 5.5 seconds. Now, I previously, before I tuned this gearbox back to factory, got about a 5.6, if I remember correctly. So let's hope we get 5.5 today. Now, I've turned traction control off. It's got quite a funny little wheel doing like a little burnout. So that's quite a funny traction control. I'll just point that out. But traction control is off. We're in performance mode. Let this car do its thing, because yeah, this is a good gearbox here. So hopefully we don't. Yeah, let's hope she just goes smooth. So let's hear it. So build it up a little bit. 3, 2, 1. Boost. 100. Look, I think I could build it up a little bit more. I'd get out of it. We'll try it one more time. The car's running a little bit hot today, and it's it's a 30+ degree day out here in the country, so I'm a little bit stressed out as I do need to fix my radiator as well. So I don't want to make it too hot, but yeah, we'll run some air through it and we'll do one more. Now doing one more here on the straight road again. Build the revs up. $100. We're just gonna have to see, because that's really just the only issue with this car is just getting a quick launch, because yeah, it's just kind of hard to build the revs up before it takes off without spinning the wheels. And then once that turbo hits though, then it goes. But yeah, you get that slight delay while the turbo's waiting to spool. Now I'm gonna finish the video off here today, so I'm absolutely wrapped on how this car is coming along. It's driving so much better, and I have so many parts on order for this thing, so I'm glad we got to take it out, do a review with it still fairly stock right now. So look, lots of parts are on order. We're gonna be documenting the whole thing. We've already got a pretty good little playlist at the moment, so if you guys are new here and you want to see some more F6 content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And yeah, as always guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on that next video.